Towards midnight, it started raining. Uchi woke up from her sleep and suddenly felt as if something had dropped on her body. She started having a strange, itchy feeling. Ali could hear someone talking in her head. "You need to go to him and sleep with him." Once upon a time, in a small African city called Obu, there lived a young girl named Uchi. Uchi was the daughter of the pastor of the small church, Pastor Unuka. Her mother's name was Aluchi. Uchi grew up in a God-fearing family. Pastor Unuka preached about purity. Both he and his wife were virgins when they got married, and he desired for his daughter, Uchi, to keep her virginity until marriage. From a young age, Uchi had learned the importance of living a chaste life and preserving herself for her future husband. After completing her secondary education at the community college, Uchi was apprenticed to a popular tailor to learn tailoring skills while waiting for admission to university. At the tailor shop, Uchi met a young girl named Amaka, of the same age. They instantly became friends. After work each day, they would walk home together, chatting along the busy roads before bidding each other goodnight at the junction. Unlike Uchi, Amaka did not live with her parents. Instead, she lived in a small house that had belonged to her late maternal grandmother. A few weeks into her apprenticeship at the tailor shop one evening, one of her mother's friends named Gika paid a visit. She wanted to warn Uchi's mother about her new friend. According to Gina, Amaka was the daughter of a witch doctor named Eo. Rumors circulated that Eo had used his dark powers to kill Amaka's mother, which was the reason Amaka left her father's house after her mother's death. Gika advised Uchi to cut all ties of friendship with Amaka, warning that she was the daughter of an evil witch doctor. When Uchi returned home that day, her mother sat her down and told her everything Gika had said about Amaka and the need for Uchi to end their friendship immediately. However, for the first time in her life, Uchi stood up to her mother and refused. "No, Mom. I don't care what you say about Amaka's father. Amaka is a good girl and an amazing friend. Nothing you say can make me end our friendship," she declared firmly. Uchi continued her close friendship with Amaka. The two quickly became best friends, sharing secrets and everything else. The young prince of the city, Prince Chi, took an interest in Uchi and came to ask for her hand in marriage. Uchi's parents were delighted by such an honor and gladly gave their blessing for the union. Amaka also had a boyfriend named A, who had promised to marry her. However, one afternoon, Amaka paid A an unexpected visit at his house and was shocked to find him in bed with another girl. Over the years, Amaka had heard stories of A's terrible reputation for being unfaithful to women and sleeping around. But she had never believed the rumors until this very moment, when she saw the truth with her own eyes. In a burst of anger, Amaka threw the engagement ring A had given her a few weeks earlier onto the floor and told him that it was over between them. She stormed out of his house, utterly heartbroken. Amaka went back to the tailor shop in tears, crying uncontrollably. On their walk home, Amaka narrated everything that had happened to Uchi in more detail. Uchi felt genuine pity for Amaka having to go through such an awful betrayal, and she tried her best to cheer her friend up. That night, as Amaka sat on the bed in her small house, she began to remember all the good moments and memories she had shared with A, and his promises to make her his wife one day. Why should I allow just one incident of him cheating to ruin everything we had together? Perhaps I overreacted, she said out loud to herself. The next day, when Uchi was informed about Amaka's new plans to go back and beg A for forgiveness to take her back, she was taken aback. Despite Reed's opinion, Uchi accompanied Amaka in her decision. Amaka angrily asked for Uchi's help to retrieve the engagement ring she had thrown and to apologize to A. Ali, however, did not support Amaka's decision to return to the same man who had betrayed her without showing any genuine remorse. But Amaka's heart was entirely set on love, and she was determined to win back A's affection despite his hurtful betrayal, disregarding Uchi's warnings. The plan was as follows. Uchi would first enter to speak to A on behalf of Amaka, then convince him to take her back, and finally, Amaka would enter and... The two girls set out together towards A's house to put this plan into action. When they arrived, as they had decided, Uchi went inside while Amaka waited under the tree beside the house. Inside, Uchi found A looking incredibly sad and depressed, sitting on a mat. Uchi greeted him politely and told him that she had come to talk to him about Amaka and their situation. A welcomed her, mentioned her to join him on the mat, and then briefly went into his small kitchen area. Unbeknownst to everyone, inside the kitchen, A added a mysterious powdery substance into an empty cup before pouring some of the wine into the same cup. A returned and handed the cup of wine over to Uchi. She thanked him and took a sip of the tainted drink. And that was the last thing Uchi could remember. Ali woke up sometime later to find herself in a complete daze, lying on A's bed in a devastated state, with her clothes scattered everywhere. As she tried to make sense of this horrifying situation, Amaka barged back into the house after growing impatient from waiting too long outside. Amaka was utterly shocked at the scene of her best friend Uchi in such a compromising state on A's bed. Before Uchi could get a word out to explain, Amaka let out a piercing scream of anguish and betrayal. "You evil man! You forced yourself on me and took my virginity, all my pride and purity." Uchi cried, Amaka's face contorted with rage. "You deceitful snake! I knew you were hypocritical, but I never imagined you would stoop this low. Our friendship is over, you disgraceful hypocrite." With these words, Amaka left, leaving behind a traumatized Uchi. Despite false assumptions and misunderstandings, Uchi couldn't muster the courage to follow Amaka and truly explain what had happened. She felt dirty, ashamed, and utterly devastated over having her innocence stolen in such a cruel manner. In the days that followed, Uchi was different from her usual self. She always looked sad and withdrawn. However, she couldn't bring herself to tell her parents that she had lost her virginity. It was the most precious thing they wanted her to keep until marriage. What is a girl who is no longer a virgin? Ali pondered. What about the prince? Would he still want to marry her if this got out? So many thoughts ran through Uchi's mind. And what about Amaka? Will she understand that Uchi was also a victim here? Would Amaka ever forgive her? Uchi cried. The next day, Uchi decided to visit Amaka to at least explain what really happened to her. As soon as Amaka saw Uchi coming towards her house, she quickly chased her away. "How dare you show your face here, you little harlot!" Amaka shouted, not wanting to hear what Uchi had come to say. After Uchi left, Amaka continued thinking about the perfect way to deal with Uchi. "I will visit my father, and you will become the harlot that you truly are," Amaka concluded. That evening, Isa was seated in his shrine when he was shocked to see his daughter Amaka standing at the door, tears streaming down her face after so many years. Amaka told her father how her best friend had betrayed her by taking away her future husband. "Father, I want you to make that harlot a public toilet for all the men in the village," said Amaka. Iso laughed. "Truly, a lion cannot give birth to a goat. Amaka, you are truly your father's daughter." He handed her a calabash and told her to call Uchi's name into it 3 times to make her wish come true. Iso, his daughter, assured her that her wish would be granted within 3 days, and she would become even worse than a prostitute. After futile attempts to ask for forgiveness from Amaka, Ali realized that she couldn't live in guilt forever. She must move on with her life, whether she was a virgin or not. 3 days later, the prince visited Uchi and her parents. He expressed his desire to take Uchi to the palace to meet his parents and spend some time with them before the wedding. Uchi's parents were thrilled with the idea and eagerly agreed. Uchi packed a few belongings and followed the prince to the palace to meet his parents. Upon arriving at the palace, Prince CH introduced Uchi to his parents, and they were delighted to meet her, impressed by their son's choice of a wife. "Ah, the pastor's daughter!" exclaimed the king excitedly. After dinner, they all bid goodnight, and Uchi was escorted to a beautiful room in the palace where she would be staying. Towards midnight, it started raining. Ali woke up from her sleep and suddenly felt as if something had dropped on her body. She began to feel a strange itch. Ali could hear someone talking in her head. "You need to go to him and sleep with him," the voice said. "I'm fine," Ali said, shaking the prince. He held her in a warm embrace, hoping to comfort her, but then Uchi started moving her hands down his body. The prince was surprised at first because he had been told that Uchi was a virgin and intended to keep it that way until their wedding night. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked. "Yes, my prince," Uchi replied, and so they slept together. However, it didn't end there. Aesai kept asking for more and more until dawn broke. The prince was exhausted, but Uchi was still ready to go on. "What manner of a lady is this?" asked the frustrated prince. Without saying a word to the king and queen, he took Uchi out of the palace, brought her back to her father's house, and told them that the wedding was off. When her parents asked Uchi what went wrong at the palace, she lied and said that the prince was angry because she refused to allow him to touch her. "You have done well, my daughter. Do not compromise your purity for anyone, prince or not," said Unuka, proudly hugging his daughter. The next day, on her way to the tailor's shop, the strange itch and the strange voice in her head started again. "Aluchi, you need a man now," it thundered. Just then, she saw someone coming from the other side of the road. It was Kay, a young man who had asked her out a month ago, but she had turned him down. Kay was surprised to see Ali smiling at him, unlike her usual self. Before he could understand what was happening, Uchi had hugged him tightly. Al knew she needed help, but who could she turn to? Her parents would be devastated if they found out about her relationships with men. She just hoped that one day everything would stop. One fateful night, Uchi felt strange and knew she needed a man, but it was too late at night. The only man nearby was her father. The itch became so intense that Uchi quietly slipped into her father's room with tears in her eyes, begging him to sleep with her. Unuka was dumbfounded. Finally, everything was real. "You foul spirit, in the name above every other name, I command you to come out." Unuka began to pray fervently, Ali woke up and joined them, and they prayed until morning. When morning came, Unuka called some trusted church members, and they continued to pray until the evil spirit sent by Amaka's father left Uchi's body, and she was delivered to the glory of God. Months later, Uchi was admitted to the university in the big city, leaving the small town behind and putting her bad experiences behind her. During her final year, Uchi met a young man named Afam. They fell in love and he soon proposed. After graduation, Uchi and Afam got married and started living in the big city with her husband. However, Uchi and Afam constantly visited OBU to see her parents. On one of their visits, Ali saw a mad woman begging for alms by the roadside, and when she stopped to give her something, she immediately recognized who it was. Amaka,